Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Welcome this evening to our Gita Wisdom with Lakshmi. I'm happy that you're with us. Mukti and Trish and Rose and the longest student, Jai Krishna. How many years, Jai Krishna, have we been? 4 years?
Well, more than that. It was during COVID
Oh,
when you
wow.
were in Puerto Rico.
Yeah. And Angelica, how are you? So nice to be with you all this evening, and we might even be able to finish up the fourth chapter, very interesting chapter. So let us begin, and the way we begin is chanting some Sanskrit so that we can get into the mood, because Bhagavad Gita literally means the song of God. So Krishna chanting this Sanskrit wisdom to Arjuna. So we'll, in that mood, we'll open up with the first verse. We're on text 30 of chapter 4. Text 30 of chapter 4. This verse reads as follows: Sarve pyete jagna bida, jagna chapita kalmasaha, jagna shistamrita bhujo, yanti brahma sanatanam. And I'm going to read the word for word, give you some insight into what Krishna is saying here. So sarve means all. Api means although apparently different. Ete means these. And this word yajna, which Krishna mentions a few times, yajna vidho, yajna chapita, mentions the word yajna a few times in this particular verse, because he's been speaking a lot, both in the third and fourth chapter, part of the last part of the second chapter in particular. He's been speaking a lot about yajna, and yajna translated into English means sacrifice. So yajna bidha, conversant with the purpose of performing sacrifices. Yajna chapita, being cleansed as the result of such performances of sacrifice. Kalmasaha, of sinful reactions. Yajna shishta, of the result of such performances of sacrifices. And amrita bhujaha, those who have tasted such nectar. That means those that have performed sacrifice in the various capacities that is recommended in Bhagavad Gita and other Vedic texts. Means that once you perform these sacrifices in the proper way, you taste the nectar. That means you receive the blessings that come. Now, in this particular age of Kali Yuga that we're in right now, the Yuga Dharma, the sacrifice of this particular age, has been simplified because we are in the age of Kali, and Kali is like the winter season. So it has been simplified for us, and it's chanting, and most specifically, although it is described as chanting, Chito Darpanam Marjanam. And another verse is, can't remember right now. But in any case, the method for this particular day and age is to chant. So that's the sacrifice that Krishna encourages us to perform in this day and age. And then all the results of the previous sacrifices that were performed in previous ages can be realized by doing the yajna of the age, Sankirtan yajna. So yajna chapita, Yagyashishta, of the results of such performances of sacrifice, Amrita Bhujaha, those who have tasted such nectar, Yanti, do approach, Brahma, the Supreme, Sanatan, Sanatanam. Sanatanam means eternal. Just like there's Dharma, we've spoken about Dharma before, and Dharma means your duties that you perform while in this world. But there's also a type of Dharma which is called Sanatan Dharma. And Sanatan Dharma means what you do for an eternity. It's not just while you are embodied in this world. It's something that goes beyond that. The nature of the soul is eternal, so the soul, the eternal soul, has a duty, a responsibility, which is called Sanatan Dharma, and that is seva, service to the Supreme. So this word Sanatan also appears here and is translated as the eternal atmosphere. So the translation that Prabhupada gives us in reads as follows. All these performers who know the meaning of sacrifice become cleansed of sinful reactions, and having tasted the nectar of the results of sacrifices, they advance toward the supreme eternal atmosphere. Now, there's different meanings to sacrifice. We've all heard it in context of our own life. The definition of sacrifice, according to the dictionary, sacrifice is to give up something valuable or precious, often with the intent of accomplishing a greater purpose or goal. So that means that we perform sacrifice. Even, let's not consider Bhagavad Gita, or let's not consider yoga, or let's not consider any of the other Vedic texts. In every religion, there's a recommended sacrifice. But even in the course of our daily activities, we perform sacrifice. What is that sacrifice? What is that which is precious, valuable to us? Well, time is very precious and very valuable. But we give up our time, don't we, when we are in support of family, when we are have a family, children to take care of, spouse to take care of. There's a lot of time, a lot of effort, and maybe things we don't even want to do, but we do it. We perform that sacrifice because we know it's for a higher purpose. Sacrifice, for our children. Parents go through a lot of sacrifice, a lot of time, a lot of effort in raising a child. All of you that have had children, raised children in the course of your life, you know that you may have done things and spent time that you didn't want to, but you did it because it was in service to your children, in service to your family. When we work, there's a lot of sacrifice that we do. And there's always a result to this sacrifice. Like, what is the result of being a good parent? Well, to see that child grow up in a wonderful way, to see how that child turns out, to see how that child takes responsibility, becomes spiritual, all the wonderful and beneficial qualities that this child manifests during the course of their life, because you, as parents, have made the sacrifice to give that child the opportunity to cultivate these qualities. That is the nectar that you taste as parents. Wonderful way, intellectually, mentally, physically, spiritually. then that's the nectar that you taste. You see this, and certainly in different levels of development of that child, there are different levels of nectar that you experience. When the child is a baby and the child is fully dependent upon you for all of its needs, and you provide that, even like we know with mothers. You mothers, I know my wife, many evenings when our child was just a baby, she in the middle of the night, she's feeding the child, feeding our boy, because that's what the child needed. And even though, it was inconvenient and it was a sacrifice, she did it. She did it lovingly, because knowing that the nourishment that this child would receive physically, emotionally, from being with the mother and experiencing the mother's milk at that time. So we go through different levels, different tiers of development and sacrifice for the child. And when we see the child grow older and become responsible and smart and have nice qualities, nice characteristics. I was at the martial arts jiu-jitsu with my son this evening, and one of the mothers was commenting about how our son Nishringadev was such a nice boy, a kind boy. He spent time, with other kids and showing other kids, different things, his own time. And of course, as a parent, it was very rewarding to hear that, because I know my wife and myself put time into trying to, help him to cultivate these qualities. It is the quality of the soul, actually. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, one of our great spiritual masters, says that the quality of kindness, the quality of compassion, mercy, the quality of friendship, quality of respect, he said these are direct manifestations of the qualitative nature of the soul. So when we are doing this, we're actually helping the child to connect with their true nature, their true intrinsic, instinctive nature of friendliness, of kindness, of compassion. So this is a very important thing. So therefore, even in the material sense, in this material world, we're performing all kinds of sacrifices to give up something precious or valuable to achieve a higher goal, a higher purpose, to accomplish something. Going to school is a sacrifice, and some of us go to different levels of education. That's a sacrifice. To put in that time, to put in that effort, it is a sacrifice. And the end result is knowledge. And that knowledge helps to round us out as individuals, as well as, lead us on our path of Dharma. Many of us, choose a particular path and educate ourselves and cultivate that path, because this is what we are attracted to. And the reward is the knowledge of the desire that we have to participate in human society through our wisdom, through the wisdom that we have gained. And even important, that's called jnana, knowledge. But above jnana is the next step, which is called vijnana, the experience. When we put the time in to study, that's sacrifice, right? And then what is the nectar that we taste as a result of making that sacrifice? The vijnana, the experience that we have, the realization of that knowledge. When we put that knowledge into effect. So that's the nectar that we experience there. The nectar of parenthood, the nectar of serving your family, the nectar of experiencing the utilization of your knowledge in a particular way that has allowed you to serve in the capacity that you want to serve humanity. So all of these are considered sacrifice. Now, when we get to the Vedas, also there is sacrifice. All throughout the Vedic text, the Atharva Veda, the Yajur Veda, the Sama Veda, the Rig Veda, and all throughout the ancillary aspects of the Vedas, there are different types of sacrifice. Sacrifice is an intrinsic part of being a human being. Being a human being, particularly that is aspiring to live more of a sattvic life, a life of goodness. And even for someone that is rajasic, passionate, there are sacrifices for them to achieve certain goals. So the Vedas have their various sacrifices. And quite often when we talk about sacrifice in the context of the Vedas, we think of fire sacrifice. I don't know how many of you have ever been to a fire sacrifice. I know certainly Mukti has been to one. I'm sure Jai Krishna has been one. Gokula Priya has been. Shri Hari, I don't know if Trish or Angelica or Eugenia have experienced a fire sacrifice. But this chanting of mantras and performing this sacrifice in a particular way with a particular set of mantras are Vedic sacrifices, and they're meant to achieve a higher goal. And they're also sacrifices in the context of the Vedas are also meant to purify one's heart, one's mind. So when we're in a sacrifice and we hear the mantras and we see the fire and the priest is chanting and pouring ghee into the fire, all of these elements of Vedic sacrifices are meant to purify our hearts and our mind and ultimately to put us in contact with the Supreme. So these are Vedic sacrifices. And then there is here in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, through the second, third, and fourth chapters and continuing on to the fifth chapter, Krishna kind of expands the meaning of sacrifice, the meaning and the mindset and the mood of what is sacrifice, because he teaches us sacrifice in action. That means in the Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna is talking about sacrifice in the second, third, fourth, and fifth chapter, he's talking about sacrifice in terms of our actions. How is it that our actions can become a sacrifice that will have the result of connecting us with the Supreme? And that's what Krishna is telling us in the various processes. All actions. Krishna's first telling us sacrifice through action connects us to the source of everything. In other words, we do so many different types of actions, including eating and cooking and all these things. When we cultivate through the guidance given us in Bhagavad Gita by Krishna, Sri Krishna himself, he teaches us that everything comes from the spiritual energy of Brahman. Everything is made up. The source energy of everything that we see, all material elements, everything that we experience is coming from Brahman. So Krishna is teaching us by acting in particular ways in a relationship to the Supreme, with a mindset of service to the Supreme. He's showing us that, number one, it all comes from the Supreme. Number two, how to recognize thing shows us is all actions can be offered to the Supreme Lord, so that this sacrifice is bringing us back to our source. Our source, when I say our, or you, or me, I'm talking about Atma, that we as Atma, we as the soul, these sacrifices are bringing us back to who we really are. We're reconnecting. Atma means the soul. So to reconnect us to Atma through the medium of Param Atma. Param means supreme, Atma means soul. So through the medium of the supreme soul, and we're offering our actions to the supreme soul, then we come into connection to our true nature. And that is because the very act of sacrifice in relationship to the Supreme is purifying. And the end result of purification, while we're doing it, we continue to do the act of sacrifice. And what did I say was the act of sacrifice for this particular day and age? The age of Kali Yuga? It's chanting. So when we're doing our sacrifice of chanting, then it's purifying us. It's, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said, it's cleansing the mirror of the mind. When the mirror of the mind is dirty, it's dusty, you can't really see the reflection. So the mirror is really not serving its function of reflecting back who we are. So the performance of sacrifice, and in this day and age of Kali Yuga, the chanting, that is a very powerful sacrifice, which actually, one of the many things that it does is it cleanses the mirror of the mind so that we can see our reflection of who we are. And that needs, and the more we become purified, the more the mirror of that mind becomes cleansed and free from any dust or dirt. That means at any given time, we are connected with the self. We are connected with who we really are. And when we are connected with who we really are, then our actions and our thoughts can consciously be connected to the concept, the mood of this is an offering to God. We've spoken about how even your cooking can become an act of sacrifice. So when the consciousness becomes cleansed, it's able to see that this act that I'm doing of cooking is an act of gratitude. In other words, yes, we need sustenance, we need food to exist, but the act of gratitude is showing that we are acknowledging how this sustenance is actually coming to us. When tamagun is there, when the influence of ignorance is there, where eating comes from. I remember when I first became a devotee of Krishna, and I was very enthusiastically lecturing to my relatives about vegetarianism, and I would say to them, do you realize what this hamburger is? Does it ever come across your mind what this hamburger or this steak actually is? And how it gets from its original form to that slab of meat that's on your table. And they didn't want to hear about it. No, I don't want to hear about, what it is, that it's a cow and that it's slaughtered in the slaughterhouse. There's not that. Tamagun means very difficult to connect to reality. You exist and you accept things, but when you want clarity and connection, It's not possible. So most people don't want to hear about what they're eating, why they're eating it. They don't want to hear. They just know that this is what I want. This is how I was raised. This is the tradition I was brought up in. I was brought up in a meat-eating culture, so therefore I'm going to eat this meat without the connection of the cow, the beautiful, mooing, loving, gentle animal, and what that animal has to go through in order to end up on your plate. So sacrifice, when you actually do cooking, and this is what actually converted me when I was a sophomore, junior in college, converted me to become a vegetarian. Wasn't a devotee of Krishna yet, but I first became a vegetarian because I somehow or another, it connected. When I was cooking, what I shouldn't have been cooking at the time, but I was. When I saw it cooking, and I began to realize this was a beautiful, loving, living entity, and now it's sitting in my frying pan. And when that bell went off, that was it. I decided never to look back, never to eat meat again. But then, when I became a devotee of Krishna, then the realization of gratitude, performance of sacrifice in order to please God, to please Him in service, that was introduced via the process of bhakti yoga. So this is the importance of sacrifice. To realize everything is coming from God. It's just like the analogy can be used as clay. Clay is a source material, right? With clay, you can make many different things. The potter takes clay and makes it into vases and pots and cups and so many different things. So there's a whole variety of shapes and forms that come from the potter's wheel. But the original source material is clay. And that potter takes that original source material and makes variety of things. So there is a variety of things in our life. And all of these things come from the source material, the spiritual energy, which is called Brahman. So the performance of sacrifice helps us to connect the dots. And the more we perform sacrifice, the more purified our heart and our mind becomes. And the direct manifestation of purification is the ability at any given time to connect the dots, that this is coming from the Supreme Source, God. And I need to demonstrate my gratitude for everything that I have, everything that I possess. This is my act of seva or service to the Supreme, everything that I do. Also gold, it's the same thing. How many different things can gold be shaped into? Ladies, you may have gold earrings, you may have gold bracelets, yeah, gold bracelets, gold earrings, gold necklaces, gold sliders, gold rings, different shapes, right? All of these are coming from that root energy, that root substance called gold. So these two analogies of gold and clay and the varieties that come from it, the analogy that's used in the Vedas to demonstrate that everything is coming from the source energy called Brahman. And the recognition of that and the appreciation of that simple fact, that is called sacrifice. When we are in knowledge of this principle, we are always connecting it to the source. So this is what Krishna is teaching in the Bhagavad Gita, that your actions, that yoga, there's a yoga of action. Patanjali calls it Kriya Yoga in the Yoga Sutras, and Krishna calls it Karma Yoga. Both words, karma and kriya, come from the root Sanskrit word krit, which means action or activity. So karma, kriya, yoga, these are yogas of action. And when Krishna talks about in the fourth chapter, the beginning of the fourth chapter, he tells Arjuna that yoga is lost, and then I'm coming to deliver it again. Krishna mostly is speaking about the yoga of action, the yoga that 98% of humanity can perform in their daily routine. He's not talking about contemplative yoga or the yoga that the yogis are performing in the Himalayas. Such a small percentage of humanity does that, does the things necessary to do that kind of yoga. Krishna is talking about the yoga of action. So that's why what he talks about, he's saying the yoga of action is what has been lost, and I'm here, Arjuna, to teach this again. And this comes to us, this will be passed down to us through what is called a parampara, or a succession of teachers to students. And so therefore, for thousands and thousands of years, the dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna and the seva, or the service mindset that Krishna is teaching in Bhagavad Gita, comes to us intact, just as Krishna has taught it to Arjuna to this day and age. So just think of the fortune, that the good fortune that we have, that we're able to come in connection with the wisdom that Krishna has given Arjuna. How, Arjuna, you can act, how you can do your duty, your dharma, in such a way that it will connect you to your eternal nature, your loving nature, your service nature to God. This is what is going on in the Bhagavad Gita and what Krishna is teaching us. So the first thing Krishna teaches is karma yoga. Krishna says in the second chapter, I believe it's around the 48th verse or so, in that area, you have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself the cause of the results of your activities, and never be attached to not doing your duty. So he tells Arjuna that yoga, connection, linking up with the Supreme, can be done by you, Arjuna, even though you are a warrior and you have your duty as a warrior to protect society. It can be done by you. I can tell you how. So this is karma yoga, that you do your duty and you do not do it just because you want result. You want to enjoy the results. You do it because it is your duty. It is your obligation to society. It is your obligation as a warrior, or as a teacher, or as a mercantile person, a farmer, or a banker, or anything like that. This is all due to your nature, and learning how to use your nature in service as an offering to God. And just think of all of us that are here online right now. We all have our actions that we're doing, our work that we're doing, what we have been drawn to in the course of our time. And we're doing that work. So what Krishna is saying is when you have that path that you are following, then now Bhagavad Gita, the instructions in Gita, can teach you how, whether it's your work or it's your responsibility to family, it's your responsibility as a citizen to society, how that can be your service. This is karma yoga. And Krishna gives the example. King Janaka is an example of a king in bygone times who was a great devotee and served the Supreme by being a king. By him being a king, a dutiful king, a responsible king, and a king who understood that his duties were his service to God. And Janaka, King Janaka, through his karma yoga, through him being a king, a dutiful king, and offering all of his activities to Krishna, to God, he became liberated. So that is an example given in Bhagavad Gita for us to say, as I'm in finance, I'm in real estate, I'm in medicine, I'm in architecture, I'm a teacher, whatever it is, how that can be your seva, your service, your way to connect to the Supreme. How, and that becomes very inspiring. When we know that our job is more than just getting a check. Yeah, it's great to get that check so that you can pay your bills. That's great. But they've done research that statistically, people are not satisfied. They don't have this deep sense of satisfaction just by getting a paycheck from their job. If there's not, and we're not even talking about seeing it in the light of yajna or sacrifice that I'm talking about. We're talking about just people statistically that their jobs are not satisfying if they're only working to get the paycheck. That their job becomes more fulfilling, more satisfying if there's something deeper to it. Some cause, some affiliation that it goes beyond just the paycheck. Some inspiration, some involvement, some investment in your job. Then it's described as being gratifying. So imagine Krishna uses the word here in this particular verse of Amrit. He's saying you taste the nectar. When in Sanskrit, when they use the word Amrit, Amrit has a variety of meanings. It means something that tastes heavenly, something that is very, very beneficial for your well-being. Like in Ayurveda, there's Amrit, and it could be very, very good for you, very healthy for you. And it's described as Amrit. It's the nectar, or something that is just sublime in its taste, but not only sublime in its taste, sublime in its nourishment of the body and the mind. Then it's called Amrit. So Krishna says here, he uses the word, yajna shishtamrita bhujo. So Amrita Bhuja means those who have tasted such nectar. So the yoga system that Krishna is teaching us in the Bhagavad Gita, be it karma yoga or the ability to do your work experience the results of that work and have the results or the fruits of your labor as an offering to the Supreme. He said, then you are tasting Amrit. Then you'll taste the nectar that is there as a result of that. That is what Krishna is. So the Karma Yoga, Krishna describes it becoming detached from the results and attached to offering those results to the Supreme. That's called Karma Yoga. Jnana Yoga, Krishna teaches that. Jnana Yoga is the path of realizing your true nature as pure consciousness by discriminating between the various dimensions that make up you, the here and now of you. What is that? The dimension, your physical dimension, your sensory dimension, your mental dimension, your intellectual dimension, your ego dimension, and then ultimately the separation between those various layers, those various dimensions, right? Of physical, mental, intellectual, ego. Those are all within the realm of the material dimensions that make up you. But then, in not only Jnana Yoga, but all the yoga systems, they teach the distinction between those dimensions of mind, body, intellect, ego, and your spiritual dimension. That's why in the second chapter, if you recall, in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives an extensive description of the distinction between matter and spirit. In the seventh chapter, Krishna talks about the distinction between matter and spirit. He talks about matter being comprised of 8 elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and ego, all part of the material elements. And then in the next verse, he says, but there is another dimension, another realm of existence called the soul. So that soul is what yoga is revealing to us, whether it's karma yoga or whether it's jnana yoga, the yoga of knowledge, where we're constantly hearing the mahavakyas. In jnana yoga, there's meditation on what they call mahavakyas of the Vedas. These are very concise Sanskrit verses like aham brahmasmi, and the meditation on that mahavakya, that concise statement. And what does that mean? Aham brahmasmi? Aham means I am. Brahmasmi means I am spirit. So in this way, Jnana yogis sit in meditation, and most of these mahavakyas come from the Upanishads. Tattvamasmi, that I am of spirit. And all of them have the ability to connect us and to distinguish the various dimensions of our existence. And when we begin to realize, we understand that to invest only in the temporary dimensions of our existence, which are the material dimensions of our existence, is foolishness. Just like I've often used this example, and you've probably heard me use it before, just like if you were to invest in a company that was going bankrupt, how intelligent would that be? You come to me, Lakshmi, I have $10,000. Why don't you invest it in this company? Why? Well, it's going bankrupt. What would you think of that advice? You'd think I'm crazy. Why is Lakshmi telling me? So it's the same thing. Material knowledge in and of itself, if we invest only in that, we're investing in that which is going to go bankrupt. What is going to go bankrupt? Our body. Our body is going to go bankrupt, and we can see it right before our very eyes, right? There was this one young man, and he came from a pious family, and he wanted to do puja to Lord Shiva, because Lord Shiva is called Ashutosh, and Ashutosh means one who is easily pleased or one who is easily displeased. So he's performing this puja and chanting these mantras to Shiva because he wants something from Shiva. So he's chanting, and then finally, after extensive amount of austerities and chanting, etc., Shiva appears before him, and he says to the young man, "Oh, you've been performing this sacrifice to get my attention. You got my attention. What is it that you want?" So the young man says, "I want a boon from you. I want a blessing from you. That's why I'm doing this sacrifice." So Shiva says, "And what is that blessing?" He says, "I want you to come to me before I die. I want you to give me, notice, so to speak. I don't want surprises here. I don't want a stroke or a heart attack or a car crash. I want notice." So Shiva says, "That's the blessing you want?" And the young man says, "Yes, that's the blessing I want." So Shiva says, "So it shall be." So the man was in his 20s at that time. He ages, he gets into his 30s. No notice from Shiva. He gets into his 40s. No notice from Shiva. He gets into his 50s. Now when you get into your 50s, your eyesight goes, when you were able to read without glasses, you're no longer able to read without glasses, right? So you're getting some hints there that you're growing old. No warning from Shiva in his 50s. He gets into his 60s. No appearance from Shiva. He gets into his 70s, right? And all of a sudden, at the age of 72, Shiva comes and says, "Okay, your time is up." And he says, "What? What? My time is up? You promised me the blessing that you would give me a warning." He said, "Give you a warning?" He said, "I've been giving you warnings your whole life. In the 30s, you started going bald a little bit. That's a warning. In your 40s, you started getting gray. That was a warning. In your 50s, you're losing your eyesight. That was a warning. In your 60s, you got ED. That was a warning. In your 70s, you had arthritis. I've been giving you warnings your whole life. What are you talking about?" So that's a person who is smart, a person who realizes that the same face that's in the mirror at 75 was the same face that was in the mirror at 25. I remember, and I'm sharing this little intimate detail about me when I was young. I remember I was probably a senior in college or just graduated college, and I thought to myself, what am I going to look like when I grow old? So what I did is I pulled my hair back really, really tight so I could look bald, And then I was looking at myself. I said, "Oh, this is going to be what I look." And I had really long hair at the time, and I pulled my hair back really bad. This is what I'm going to look like when I'm bald. And lo and behold, here I am. Only the face is drooped a little, a lot actually, and there's wrinkles by the eyes and so many other additional features. So Shiva has been giving the blessing all these years, and just as he gave that blessing to that young man all of these years. So it should be no surprise. So if we're investing in that which is going bankrupt, how intelligent is that? So therefore, the purpose of yoga, one of the aspects of yoga, Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, even Bhakti Yoga, is help us to understand the distinction between matter and spirit and to connect us to who we really are. That is the purpose of all of these sacrifices. So, this is the necessity of incorporating. And we are so blessed because in this age of Kali Yuga, the Lord has made the sacrifice so easy. All we need to do is regularly invest ourselves in chanting. So let me go on. This is text 31. O best of the Kuru dynasty, without sacrifice, one can never live happily on this planet or in this life. What then of the next? So Krishna is telling us of the importance of performance of sacrifice. Happiness comes through sacrifice. So the sacrifice that we're making as parents, the sacrifice we're making as workers, the sacrifice we're making as spouses, the sacrifice that we're performing, this actually has happiness in when we do it and we do it dutifully. What to speak of the sacrifice which is catering to our eternal dimension as spirit soul. That is the cultivation that we're doing through the chanting process. Text 32. All these different types of sacrifice that Krishna has mentioned here in this 4th chapter are approved by the Vedas. And all of them are born of different types of work. Knowing them as such, you will become liberated. So Krishna is telling us, yes, we all have our different natures. We all are different, unique, very special individuals. And we have our natures and we perform our sacrifices according to our nature, which Krishna has gone over within previous verses. So he says, these different types of work, knowing them as such, knowing them for what they are, you will become liberated. Text 33. O chastiser of the enemy, the sacrifice performed in knowledge is better than the mere sacrifice of material possessions. So knowledge is sacrifice performed in knowledge. Krishna is giving us some tiers or some levels. It's better than just the mere sacrifice of material possessions. After all, son of Prita, all sacrifices of work culminate in transcendental knowledge. Text 34, chapter 4, 34. Now Krishna gives us the secret of all secrets, folks. So pay close attention to this verse. He says, just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. And seeing the truth means they're living the truth. They're not only talking the talk, they're walking the walk. So they've seen the truth, they're living the truth, they're experiencing the truth, and they're sharing their experiences with you. So Krishna has given us this secret that if we want to live in truth, on the path of truth, walk the path of truth, here is what is an essential component of that, being on that path of truth. And he says, not only do you find that teacher, then you inquire, ask questions, get things clarified, and out of gratitude, out of appreciation, you render service. Service is a constitutional attitude of the soul. We see that, right? People are performing all kinds of service. You have people that are helping at animal rescues, right? They're doing that for free. They're doing it as service, right? So Prabhupada once made a joke. He said, you can choose to serve DOG or you can serve GOD. Whatever one is there, and what will it get you? It's a nice display of your compassion and your kindness. But that same service idea, that same service mentality, if it's utilized towards service to God, it is liberation. And this verse is telling us that by coming in contact who is immersed in that service attitude to God, then we can become liberated. And it's amazing to understand. It's not one or the other. Because when you see one who's living the truth, you see that he or she has a service attitude to all living entities, not just another human being, but to all living entities. That's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave the secret. He said, Trinadapi sunichena, tororapi sahishnuna, amanida manadena, kirtanaya sadahari. So if we're understanding the principle that sacrifice in this day and age is to chant, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, humility, being humbler than the blade of grass, being more tolerant than a tree, humility and tolerance, very powerful attitudes, mindsets that one needs to cultivate if they want to advance in spiritual life. Then, amanadena, manadena. Amanadena means you don't do things to get noticed, so you get recognition. You do things because it is your eternal nature to serve. And manadena, that means respect for all living entities. Krishna said, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, if you cultivate a mindset of humility, the mindset of tolerance, that you're not looking to be praised, to be glorified, to be distinctive, to be famous. If that's not your motivating factor to serve, and you have respect for all living entities. And the way that we show respect for all living entities, we don't kill them. We don't establish slaughterhouses which slaughter cows and pigs and chickens by the hundreds of thousands. That's not showing respect to those who are dwelling, cats, like Jai Tulsi has right there, your kitty. We don't disrespect them. We show them respect by allowing them their natural place in this society. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, when we cultivate that mindset, we're able to chant nonstop. We're able to perform the sacrifice that we need to perform to please God nonstop. Yeah, everybody's bringing their pets there. Mine's outside. He's barking his head off. He's chasing another living entity. That's his duty. He's outside chasing the vermin away from the property. So he's out there. I could hear him all night. He was chasing another animal out there. Now he must be cornering another animal there. So this cultivation of this spirit, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, then the natural tendency of being humble, being tolerant, not seeking fame, adoration, distinction, and respecting all living entities, is the flow of the sound vibration, which is none different than the Supreme, automatically comes to one's lips. That's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's encouragement for us. So, what time is it? 8:01. Okay, so I'll stop here. So, thank you very much for joining me. It's always a pleasure to have the association of the truth seekers like yourselves. I know you have so many things that you could be doing, but instead we're spending the evening together hearing from Krishna and hearing from Prabhupada and getting some of my realizations. So thank you so much for being here this evening. If anyone has any comment, question, observation, realization you would like to share, please feel free to speak up. Let me hear it. I'm happy to entertain any realizations or comments or questions you may have. So, anyone about the topic, the theme of sacrifice?
Hare Krishna, Dandavats, dear devotees.
Hi,
Thank you, Prabhu.
Kelsey.
Such an honor to be here
To see
and in
you.
association. Tulsi Tuesday. Uh, what you were just mentioning right now, I love the image of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with lots of animals always chanting around every village. That's always very dear to my heart. So when you were just mentioning it, I could picture it vividly, and all the animals really gravitate towards the holy name. They always, when I'm chanting around the farm, you could see them literally come towards wherever it's coming from. So thank you for showcasing and sharing Krishna consciousness always.
I knew you were relate to that. How many animals do you have on your farm there?
Oh, I lost count, but a new little baby horse was just born, so the family grows. Horses, you know, birds, bees,
You
a little
got
bit of everything.
you've
The
got
wild ones too.
your domesticated animals and your wild animals all sharing the space out there. I've been to Jai Telsey's farm and she's in Puerto Rico, and it's a very beautiful, very natural place. Everything is growing there, and in abundance. You know, the trees, the flowers, everything is growing in abundance, and that's been her life for how many years now, Jai Telsey?
13 years, and thank you for saying so. I look forward to sharing harvest with you during Rata Yatra, Puerto Rico.
Yeah,
Jai,
we'll
Jai
see you.
Jagannath.
We'll see you there, definitely, and be happy to participate in any way that I can, chanting and dancing for Lord Jagannath at the Puerto Rico Rath Yatra. Jai Tulsi helps to organize stage performance and other things, other aspects of the Rath Yatra. It's December 27th this year, right? Right down the main street of San Juan, Old San Juan, Puerto Rico, which is the heartbeat of San Juan and actually Puerto Rico. All the tourists come there, and lots of the business. San Juan is really the heartbeat of Puerto Rico, and the devotees there do a very, very nice. It's a very different, very Puerto Rican Rath Yatra, very joyous, festive, lots of laughter, lots of singing and dancing. Puerto Rican culture is just full of music and joy and dancing. And so thanks to Jai Tulsi and all the devotees there that have been doing it year after year after year, despite all the hurdles that are there. And thank you all for accepting me to come there and to visit with you and to experience the joy of Puerto Rico Rath Yatra. Thank you.
Well, thanks to Prabhupada and Lord Jagannath for giving us the blessings of association. And what can I say? We get activated when the Ratha Yatra comes through. So if you can all make it, not this year, but next, that would be great too. Looking
Yeah.
forward to
Sri
sharing.
Hari was there last year. He got initiated. In the meantime, one of the many things that he's been doing, he got initiated. He was Bhakta Sid when he came, and now he's transformed into a butterfly called Sri Hari. And he's a wonderful, wonderful practicing bhakti yogi now. He loved his visit there. We went to India together, so he's a little weary of travel right now. So he passed. I invited him, but he passed it up. He just said, after India, I'm a little exhausted. So I get that, because I'm just now coming back to reality of being free from jet lag and all that. So next year maybe he'll come. And Angelica, tú hablas español. So Angelica is from Peru, right, Angelica?
Yes.
So she will come. You will love Jai Tulsi, Angelica.
Yeah.
Maybe 1 year we could like all go. Make
Yeah,
make the plan to go to Puerto Rico for the Rata Yatra. I would love to go.
yeah,
Yo
we
hablo
Yeah, I
can.
would like
español
to.
también. Yo también no hablo, claro. Yo lo puedo hablar.
Yeah, Rose is from Brazil.
Brazil just came from the beautiful Kirtan Fest in São Paulo. Arrived
Oh,
last Sunday. 4 days of Kirtan Fest.
What do
Beautiful.
you think? What
And
do you
just
think?
like in Puerto Rico, all the dancing, the chanting, and the flipping hands and the happiness. Brazilians are very much like Puerto Ricans. We all enjoy life.
I know. Whenever I meet a Brazilian here, I get a big hug and a kiss. Doesn't matter, male, female. They just come up and hug, because the jujitsu place that my son studies at is run by Brazilians. It's a
Oh
Gracie,
yeah,
Carlson Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. So lots of Brazilians there, lots of fun people there.
yeah.
But this is the making of a retreat next year. We'll go to Puerto
yeah, yeah.
go to Puerto Rico. It's
I mean,
one of my favorite places on the planet, I can tell you.
Yeah.
Not only
It's
the weather, the beauty, but the people also are
Mhm.
amazing people.
Yeah, and
So
it's close to here. It's not very far. It's not very
not bad.
expensive. Yeah, it's easier.
Not too expensive.
Yeah.
You're all
Well, Puerto
invited.
Rico loves you back, and Dandavats to your son Anasimha and Gokula as well, please.
Yes,
Looking forward to being association as
I will extend that to them. Okay, folks, thank you so much for being with me this evening. And again, next week, same time, same station. Until then, have a happy, healthy, and holy week. Hare Krishna.
Hari